It is your boy, Austin Duncan, bringing you back with Halloween Lives, the podcast of Michael Myers. Happy holiday season. I'm not going to do this the whole time. Good to see you. Good to have you back. We recently, actually, I'll wait on the big news that you can probably tell or that you might know. Today, Blaine is joining us via phone. He is on the road. It is the holiday season. Everybody's everywhere, and so we're gonna see Blaine a little bit differently. And by see, I mean not see, only hear. How you doing, Blaine?
Hey, what's up, man? Yeah, I'm doing some traveling. It is the holiday season, and that's how this kind of thing goes. But we are the weekly Halloween Lives podcast, so by hell or high water, we're going to make sure that we record. And I really didn't have an excuse. I could call in and make this thing work. So that's what I'm doing this week, and I'm damn happy to be here.
Man, it is good to have you here, and it is good to be celebrating something. Not only the day of Father Christmas himself, but we recently hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, man.
Hell yeah. Thank you so much to every single person out there who has supported the channel over the last year, who have put us in their stories on Instagram or shared our videos on Facebook or shared any of our YouTube videos. We can't thank you guys enough for the support that you've given us. And as we've mentioned on the show before, Austin and I wanted to hit 1,000 subscribers by the 1 year mark, and we're not even at that point yet. And we just hit 1,000. So we are forever grateful this holiday season to obviously have you guys by our side. And it's just it's awesome, dude. I mean, you and I haven't really even gotten together. We need to get together and celebrate this in some sort of way. You and I haven't seen each other a ton in the last few weeks. You were traveling last week. Obviously we had Marie co-host. It was awesome. Thank you again to her for coming on the show. But yeah, we really need to get together and we need to celebrate because 1,000 is a lot. I mean, 1,000 is a big deal.
It was kind of one of those things where, the whole time we always talk about the snowball effect with this show. It was like, we just got to get the snowball rolling. And like Blaine said, can't thank each and every one of you enough who has helped that snowball roll down the hill. We're only going to get bigger. We're only going to get better. And it is really exciting. I mean, we try not to focus too much on the numbers, but it's definitely a number worth celebrating. And so yeah, cheers to 1,000. Blaine, can't tell if you're cheersing, but I bet in your heart you were.
I am in my heart of hearts. I'm cheersing you right now. But yeah, it's pretty cool, pretty awesome. It's actually kind of fun because to go back and watch like the first episode. And it's like, it's cringeworthy to me in many ways. I mean, it is what it is. It's fine. But it's just the show has come so far. I think we found our groove a little bit more. But to your point, like the snowball thing, it's only going to get better. We only have more ideas. And we're going to be bringing some of those ideas to you in 2024. And we're obviously really excited to just keep the channel going and keep it growing. And once again, we are the only podcast out there doing 100% Halloween talk, 365 days a year, 52 weeks a year, whatever you want to say. We are doing it weekly, and it's a blast. We enjoy doing it, and it's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's been a hell of a ride, and we're gonna keep it going here. Today, Blaine, we are going to be talking about the top 5 supporting characters of the Halloween franchise.
Right.
Blaine, how would you describe what a supporting character is in a Halloween film?
I think a supporting character is anybody who's just not a main character. So, like, for instance, Laurie Strode is a main character in Halloween 1978. Donald Pleasance probably considered a main character in Halloween 1978. Sheriff Brackett, supporting character. Annie, supporting character. Linda, supporting character. That is how I'm looking at this thing. So we're not talking about the main characters, the main characters who are focused on in each of these movies. We're talking about the characters that help support that cast and make that movie what it is through their acting.
Yeah, it was really fun to. We had kind of a different plan for this episode earlier, but I think that this kind of came in at the 11th hour, and it sounded so much fun that we had to do it. So, how do you want to do this, buddy? Do you want to do 5 to 1, or do you want to do 1 to 5?
Let's do 5 to 1. And I tell you what, so I went first for our hot takes. Why don't you get us started and you give us your fifth? So we're each picking 5. You give us your number 5 on your list of your favorite supporting characters of the Halloween franchise.
Absolutely. Now, I do want to preface this with some honorable mentions. I had originally done 10, even though we said we were only going to do 5. I overachieved. So really quick, Julian from Halloween 2018 coming in at my number 10 spot. Hilarious. Nice. Such a fun time. Always love the scenes he's in. Reverend Jackson, yes, we'll gather at the river, the beautiful, beautiful river from Halloween 4. Dr. Sartain, again, from Halloween 2018. Even though I don't really like the character, like he was a very memorable and like helped push the narrative along. Jimmy from Halloween 2, just a sweet, sweet guy, right? And then coming in at number 6, before we get into the real deal here, I got Linda Van Dyke from Halloween 1978. Just some people I love, man. Just some good characters.
Love it.
Had to get Julian in there.
Julian, that is, I didn't even think of Julian, but Julian, first off, was that kid, he wasn't at age 45, was he?
I don't believe so. I never saw him. If he was, I would imagine, I would have imagined he would have been next to like Vicky. And I never saw anybody. I never saw any child actors there.
No.
So,
okay. Yeah. Which is disappointing because he was definitely a highlight of that film. No questions asked.
Best babysat kid in the franchise. And I will die on that hill.
Even though all the kids in the trilogy, every kid in that film or those films are assholes. Every single one of them.
And he kind of is too, but at least he's funny.
Yeah, he's a funny asshole.
Exactly. No, he's definitely felt a little bit more realistic. I like that they did that. The one that Corey babysits though just sucks. RIP though.
Yep. That's right.
For my number 5, I'm cheating a little bit here, but it does come in a 2-piece. There are 2 people, but one whole John. This is Big John and Little John from Halloween Kills. I love their characters. I thought, we've talked about them so many times on this show, just that like, it's a really cool idea that these 2 people are living in the house that Michael Myers, started his killing spree in. They're really like fun characters. They're into Halloween. They remind me a little bit of you and me, Blaine, but we are not gay lovers. We are just gay brothers. And it was a really good duo of characters. And I really did enjoy them. Love them scaring the shit out of those kids. Just a good set of supporting characters in that film. What do you think of them?
That's an awesome pick. And actually I never even thought about them, but now that you mention it, like they are definitely deserving to be on this list. So I'm going to call them my honorable mention characters because they are, to your point, like there was the story that they helped tell. I mean, they helped tell truly like the backstory of the Myers house and what happened there and just different aspects of the previous storyline, if you will. And yeah, man, I love their characters. I love the fact that the house, and we've talked about this, that the house became a character, that the house had this almost personality of its own. And I don't know if, I'm sure I wasn't the only one watching Halloween Kills going, okay, wait, this is the inside of the Myers house. What's changed? What's different? Look at the paint colors. Look at that's the way it looked back in 1978, right? Like the handrail and like the staircase going up. Those were all things that I was noticing. But I do think that the Big John, Little John characters were, they were great supporting characters in that film, just how they told that story. And, if you go back to our draft that we did, our Halloween draft, they were both characters. I don't remember if I took Big John or Little John first in the draft, but I remember doing specifically a trade with you during the draft because I wanted them in my film, my draft, Halloween draft that I was doing. So yeah, dude, that is a great pick. And certainly two people who are very deserving, of to be on this list.
Totally. They're they might not have impacted the story as much as some of the other characters that I've even already mentioned. But for me, they left such a great impact on Halloween Kills, a film that I don't like as much. They are a big bright spot in that film. So had to cheat a little bit and do two at once, but that's my number 5, man. What about you?
Totally get it. Great pick. So for my number 5, I'm going to go with Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 version of Annie Brackett. I really, well, first off, as you know, if you guys go back to our rankings that we did a few episodes ago, right after Halloween, my ranking changed for Rob Zombie's Halloween. It moved up, and I don't remember exactly where it was, but it did move up for me. That it grew on me, I should say. The character that Annie Brackett, the character of Annie Brackett in part 2 is such a good character because she not only helps support this sort of PTSD story that is being told of Laurie, Scout Taylor Compton's Laurie in Halloween 2, but she has a story of her own. And what I really like about the Annie Brackett character in Halloween 2 is she seems to be much more in control of everything that's going on in her life. She seems to be not as focused, not as stressed out by the events that happened to them on Halloween. And she just seems much more willing to like move on with her life, where Laurie in Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is struggling, right? She's obviously seeing a therapist. She's got just things going on in her life that are a constant reminder of what happened to her. The Halloween prior, I think it was supposed to be. I don't remember exactly, but the Halloween prior. And I don't know. I really like the character of Annie. I thought like the whole montage scene where they started showing Danielle Harris, like videos of Danielle Harris when she was a kid after she was murdered. And like, Sheriff Brackett is coming in, like that was like powerful shit, man. It's still, every time I watch it, you kind of almost get like a little lump in your throat. And you feel for the character of Sheriff Brackett because there's his daughter and she's murdered and she's dead. And, there's that whole buildup of when he gets to the house and they're trying to stop him from going upstairs and he's forcing his way in there. And then, his reaction, like, Brad Dourif's reaction in that scene is freaking powerful. And it might be one of the best acted scenes in the entire franchise, in my opinion. So yeah, she's annoying in Rob Zombie's Halloween. And then I like her a lot more in Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. But what's your thoughts, Annie Brackett, specifically in Halloween 2?
Dude, you could have convinced me right there to put her on my top 10. That's a solid reasoning, dude. I've never really taken the time to really digest Annie's character in especially the sequel of Rob Zombie's Halloween. She really is. She's kind of like where I have problems with Laurie in that film. She is kind of the exact opposite. It's cool hearing her tell Laurie to get her shit together. Because you can't really use the excuse of like you didn't go through this, but she did. I mean, that's
right.
That's the big thing there is like two different ways of handling that trauma. Annie is Annie is more likable in that film than Laurie by far. Obviously tough seeing her get killed in that film. But Yeah, no, great pick. I'm a big fan. You've convinced me, man. That's a solid pick. Yeah.
Good deal. Good deal. Yeah, I appreciate her character in that film specifically, and it's very well done. So yeah, she's my number 5.
Awesome. Well, to kick things off at number 4, we're going to talk about a character that we briefly mentioned earlier already, and that is Vicky from Halloween 2018, man.
Nice.
Again, just like a very enjoyable character. When you think of like the supporting cast, often forgettable in these films where the supporting cast, let's be real, is here to be bodies. If they aren't on the poster, you got a good feeling that they're getting murdered. Some people like Sandra make it, but some people like Vicky who have a big spot in my heart do not. No, Vicky was just a great character. Nice to see the 2018 version of what a babysitter looks like, just like Julian, her babysitter kid, was a great version of the babysitting child. It was nice to just see like an updated version of that. Vicky is very comedic. I thought the comedy in Halloween 2018, for the most part, hits pretty well. It's not over the top. I think everybody was a little bit nervous when Danny McBride was listed as part of the production there. But it really wasn't turned into a joke. I think Vicky is a great example of good comedy writing. Very realistic. Yeah, she was solid. Very cool chemistry she had with Julian. And it was a character, when she dies, you're kind of like, damn, I kind of like that girl, which for the supporting cast is very difficult to say for a lot of our other characters. So yeah, I got to go with Vicky at number 4. She was all-star in that movie. 2018. Really, I mean, on my whole top 10, there are 3 picks from 2018 just on this list. They were doing something right when they were trying to bring back the franchise. So big fan here.
I agree with you, and it's funny that you have Vicky on your list, because Vicky was on my list until about 4 minutes before the show started, and I went back over my list. And funny enough, she was my number 4. So I have replaced her, but she is Virginia Gardner is the actor or actress who plays her, and she is such a likable character, and I think it's her sort of she's got an attitude to her. She has a snarkiness. She's obviously she has just this, like, her whole interaction with Julian is like, I love how they're like, you're my least favorite kid who I babysit. And he's like, well, you're my least favorite babysitter. And she's like, yeah, well, you're my least favorite kid. And then, she goes to tuck him into bed, and then she's getting ready to close the door. And she's like, actually, you're my favorite kid. I like that. Just, she's a spitfire and snarky. And I like that about that character. There's also a part of me that really feels like Vicky in some ways is supposed to be a mixture of Annie and Linda from 1978. And so Allison is our Laurie comparison, and Vicky is a combination of Linda and Annie, because Annie, you get that snarkiness, you get sort of the attitude, and Linda's sort of just this kind of fun, peppy, that she's having premarital sex. Like there's like that whole thing going on. She's a teenager, kind of this wild teenager. And I feel like you combine those two together and you get the character of Vicky. Now, I don't know if that's what they were going for or not, but every time I watch 2018, that's what I think about, is that those two characters are exactly the same. So I think that is a fantastic pick at number 4.
Well, thank you. I've never thought of her that way, but I think now moving forward, I probably will. And I'm sure that was a big part of it, was they wanted somebody to capture those energies that are absolutely missed in 2018 without Linda and Annie. And I think she does a great job of it, man. Again, not a character that does crazy things for the plot, but a character I loved watching.
Right. I agree. No, I totally agree. My number 4 is friend of the show. You got to always say that when they've been on the show before. Friend of the show, Michelle Dawson, who plays the character of Nurse Deb. And this is in Halloween Ends. I can't put my finger necessarily on how or why. Her character to me is just so good. She's so likable and hateable at the exact same time. And she is, and I'm talking obviously specifically her character, right? I'm not talking about Michelle, but I'm talking about her character, that she does such a good job of selling this this supposed friend of Allison, maybe more of a work friend, although they do go out to the bar, they go out to like the bar for Halloween or the Halloween party thing. But you get this feeling that she might not be maybe a real friend, right? And she does such a good job of selling that while also coming off as maybe a little ditzy, a little dumb, somebody who's clearly trying to get a promotion and doing whatever she can do to get that promotion, i.e. laying down the head doctor of the hospital to get her promotion, which she ultimately ends up doing. But every scene in Halloween Ends, and everybody knows how we feel about Halloween Ends. We're big fans of Halloween Ends. But every time Halloween Ends is on and the character of Nurse Deb is on, I'm always very drawn to the screen and listening to the dialogue. I think the way she delivers her lines and the way she portrays that character, it's spot on. And like we've talked about this in the past too, like there are certain characters throughout the franchise that Dr. Loomis. You could never imagine anybody playing Dr. Loomis. I mean, obviously you have Malcolm McDowell, but the true Dr. Loomis, is you can't take that away, right? I mean, Dr. Loomis is Dr. Loomis. But the character of Nurse Deb is, I just can't picture that being played by anybody else in my mind. Like that is who she is. And so Nurse Deb makes my number 4, and a character that you love to hate and hate to love. And and plus she's a sweetheart. We obviously had her on the show. She was super gracious to come on the program. We met her out at age 45. She's a lovely human being. So just that's where she lands on my list at number 4.
Yeah, no, here's what I'll say about Nurse Deb. She is almost like a character taken out of a movie from like the 80s. She is, and what I mean is she's just such a character. You don't really get that, I think very often where with newer movies, we're trying to break out of any sort of like stereotype roles or anything like that. And not to say her character is any sort of stereotype, but she's just almost a larger than life character. To her credit, Michelle Dawson's credit, she makes this character that's almost unbelievable seem so real. It really is a character that just jumps off the screen for me as well. And like you said, just a fantastic lady. So sweet when we got to meet her. And yeah, absolutely understand that pick. That was your number 4, right?
That was my number 4. Yep.
All right. So for me, coming in at number 3 is a character who is, a little bit more impactful than my last couple of picks as far as the plot goes. It's someone who is in multiple films. This is Officer Hawkins, man. Officer Hawkins came into 2018 a little bit. Didn't know what I thought of the guy just yet. Felt like, okay, this is just the new Sheriff Brackett. But as we get some of the background, especially in Kills and then Halloween Ends, you really see that this guy is his own character. He's got a lot of reasoning and a lot of personal attachment to finding Michael Myers, being the person who, he very clearly says, I'm going to be the one to kill him. He's not, but he played a large part in it. I loved his character. I loved seeing his flashback in Halloween Kills, why he is attached to the shape. Obviously a very tragic scene happens to him. He ends up accidentally killing one of his partners on the scene, and maybe holds that against Michael. He let Michael go. He stopped Michael from being shot by Dr. Loomis at the end of the events of 1978, and now he feels a little bit of blood on his hands for every murder that occurs from that point. Great to see him in ends, trying to make amends with his soul and moving on to the cherry blossoms, potentially with Lori. Obviously, that's the way they want things to go. The two of them have some history. I don't know. He ended up being a character that I really enjoyed and I thought was absolutely crucial to the trilogy. We've already mentioned a lot of characters from the David Gordon Green trilogy. I think it really just goes to show, like, even though we have issues with the writing of these films sometimes, they put memorable characters into these films. And for me, I got to put Officer Hawkins at the top of the new characters that aren't main characters in those roles.
Love it, man. I know we've talked about this in the past, that you're a big fan of the Officer Hawkins character, as am I. I think he adds so much to that trilogy. And I think the fans responded really well to his character. Now, I don't know if they had kills written prior to the release of 2018, but I don't think there's any question that they wanted to make sure in Kills that they really told his backstory, right? They did that in that flashback scene, as you mentioned. They did it by bringing him in, and he played such a vital and really a pivotal role in that Halloween 1978 scene, the flashback scene, where, he could have killed Michael multiple times, right? He takes that pot shot at him in that back alley, and then he tries to shoot him again in the house. And then he goes and he could shoot him a third time. And no, what was it? I'm trying to think. Was Loomis going to shoot him? Yeah, Loomis was going to shoot him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yep. That's right. So he had two opportunities, right? And you now see this as this whole thing starts to progress about what a huge part of this storyline Officer Hawkins has in these movies, and how he's so intertwined in this trilogy specifically. So yeah, man, that's absolutely a great pick. And I'm going to actually stick with my number 3. I'm going to stick with a similar scene or a similar character, a law enforcement character who was also in multiple films. And I can't believe I'm saying this right now, but I'm going back to Rob Zombie. Rob Zombie's Halloween and Halloween 2, the character of Sheriff Brackett, and the in Halloween and Halloween Kills, or I'm sorry, Halloween, not Halloween Kills, Halloween and Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. Dude, he's so good. Brad Dourif is so good in these films. He sells, even though, here's the thing, Brad Dourif looks, and now granted, we're talking Rob Zombie's films here. Brad kind of has a little bit of a scuzzy look to him. Sorry, Brad.
Yeah.
I think that's probably something that he really tries to like ham up and portray more on screen. But he does. He's got sort of a little bit of a scuzzy look to him. I wouldn't necessarily think that is what a sheriff of a department would look like. Kind of he's not clean shaven. His hair is long. I mean, he looks like he should be on the receiving end of law enforcement, not the giving end, if you will.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know that he was necessarily like, he wouldn't have been my first pick, I think, if I were Rob Zombie. But with that being said, dude, he delivers. He is throwing haymakers those entire, in each of those films. And I obviously talked about, you had this scene with Annie Brackett dying in part 2, and he for sure made that scene. I mean,
Oh yeah.
Danielle Harris did nothing for that scene, right? She just laid there. But Brad Dourif, he made that scene. And so, I don't know what I love more and why it's finishing on my list. I don't know if I like the character of Sheriff Brackett as much as I just like how Brad Dourif portrayed that character and the believability and just like the emotion, the raw emotion, like the scene when even in Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, when he's reading the book, right? He's reading Loomis's book and he's going through this, and he doesn't say a whole lot, but his face, that he's the way, the emotion on his face is just, it's incredible. And that he's going in his head, shit, I have to find Laurie. And then when he calls home and he's like, he's talking to Annie and he's like, hey, have you seen Laurie? Can you have her give me a call if you find her, or let me know if you find her, or whatever he says. And it's so good. So, yeah, man, I absolutely love the way Brad Dourif, the way that he portrayed that character, even though, like I said, it would not have been my first choice of an actor.
Well, two things. First of all, your Brad Dourif Sheriff Brackett impression is pretty freaking good, dude. I was kind of shocked there. And second thing, let's just keep talking about him, man, because he is my number 2 on my list. Dude, he's one of the best parts about those movies. When you talk about supporting characters, they're characters that steal scenes, and that are memorable past the film. I've talked on this show before that Sheriff Brackett is one of the only people that isn't a scumbag in these movies. And yeah, he kind of looks like he would fit the part, but he's really just got such a great big heart in both of these films. Always trying to do the right thing. And yet all of these bad things keep happening to him. Genuinely, yeah, he looks a little bit like Davy Crockett-ish. He's a little
that's the perfect way to describe him.
I could see him with the raccoon hat.
Yeah.
He's just kind of a little rough around the edges. Very different take than the Sheriff Brackett we got in 1978. But I think, say what you want about Rob Zombie, I think he was really doing something there, man. He really had a vision, and I don't know how much was Rob Zombie, how much was Brad, but god damn, yeah, it is really a character. When I was sitting down to write this list, he was one of the first people I thought of. Yeah. I've talked a lot about how the first two or how the remake films aren't my favorite. But similar to Big John and Little John and Halloween Kills, whenever Sheriff Brackett's on the screen, I'm attentive, I'm watching. Gotta love Sheriff Brackett, man. That is my number 2 pick. I thought he was just fantastic in that role, and glad he got his moment in both films.
For sure. Yeah, and not only did he get his moment in both films, he lived. Like he's one of one of the characters who you see throughout those 2 films that actually survives, so awesome job to him. It was very, very well done. For my number 2, I'm gonna stick with the brackets. It seems to be a thing here, but I'm gonna go with Annie Brackett from Halloween 1978. I just freaking love this character. I think I've talked about this on the show before, that I don't know why I like this character so much. Once again, sort of going back to the Vicky thing, like she's spunky, she's got an attitude, she's funny when maybe you don't, when maybe she's not intending to be funny. Just sort of a spicy character that is just enjoyable to watch on the screen. And when I look at like the trifecta of Linda and Annie and Laurie, like they just encompass so many different sort of personalities and characters. Those are 3 girls who really help carry a lot of that film. Obviously they're besides, Laurie's the main character, but Linda and Annie, they play such a pivotal role in that, because as we've talked about on the show, and we need to do a show on this, and we've talked about this, but we need to do a show on, was Annie really truly the intended, like this conspiracy theory or whatever you want to call it. It's almost a hot take, but was Annie truly like the real intended target of Michael, and Laurie just sort of gets in the way? But like the girls just do such a good job of carrying that story, and really for probably the better part of a third of the film, it's focused primarily on Annie and Linda. Like it kind of keeps jumping back and forth between what's going on that night, and obviously they're Laurie is in there as well. But Annie played a huge role in my opinion in the success of that film and carrying that film along. And man, I can't say enough good things about her character, and she's a lot of fun.
Dude, we must be brothers. Because coming in at my number one pick, let's keep talking about it. Annie Brackett from Halloween 1978, man. We talked about it a little bit last week on the hot takes. Man, she's the most enjoyable character for me in 1978. I really just love that character. Obviously, we wanted a good versus evil battle. And I think it's too bad that Annie is not considered like just good overall. Obviously, Laurie got that role. But Annie is so much fun to watch in that film. Like you were talking about, she's got that spunkiness to her. She's very she's a little rough around the edges too. She doesn't really take any shit from anybody, and I like that about her. She's a little bit of a loudmouth. I mean, I think I'm smiling just talking about her character in this film, because it is really every scene she's in that film is just fantastic. It's too bad she dies in kind of a silly acted way. But she really is such a great character in that film. When I think about supporting characters in a Halloween film, Annie Brackett is the top of the top for me. She's just, Linda's fine. Linda just doesn't have the character that Annie has in that film. Linda obviously also has a bit of a jokey spark to her, but God, Annie's just fantastic. And she's really going through it with Laurie, instigating the Ben Tramer thing. I mean, everybody knows an Annie Brackett. And I think, so much fun to watch her in that film that, like I said, when it comes to supporting characters, she's top of the pyramid. She is just fantastic. And, great meeting Nancy Loomis out there at age 45. Just overall, gotta be my favorite supporting character, dude.
Love it. We are definitely brothers. I think that confirms it. If anything else, or if everything else hasn't, that is definitely it. So I'm gonna say this. So my number one might be controversial.
Is this hot takes part 2?
My number one could be somebody who you're gonna go, well, I don't know. They could be considered a main character, but I'm not considering them a main character, and I'm going to explain to you why. Okay.
You have an argument prepared.
I have an argument prepared.
Okay.
Yeah. Not necessarily a formal one, but I'm going to bullshit my way through it to try to convince you of why this is not a main character.
I've gotten through 26 years of life doing that. Go for it, buddy.
All right, here we go. My number one supporting character of the Halloween franchise, Corey Cunningham.
Okay. All right. I'm ready for the argument because
here's the thing. When I look at Halloween Ends, let me back up. When I look at any film, I see one main character, and then I sometimes see somebody who could also be considered a corresponding main character, somebody who is just as much a part of the story, just as much a part of telling the story. But there usually is only one main character or maybe a second main character. I find it very difficult to have 3 main characters in a film. Now, Corey Cunningham is obviously introduced very early on in Halloween Ends, in essentially the opening scene, right? It is the opening scene. And we see him frequently throughout the film. But I still look at Corey as a supporting character only because I see Allison and Lori being the main characters of Halloween Ends. We are telling their story, we are finalizing that story, and we are giving them the opportunity to close those characters out. And not only that, but they are 2 survivors of all 3 of the films. So I look at them truly as the main characters of Halloween Ends, where Corey, much like Michael Myers, I never consider Michael Myers a main character in any of the films, but I look at Corey as somebody who slips in and out of Halloween Ends, much like Michael does in most films. Not in Halloween Ends, obviously, because Michael is not in it a ton, but Corey sort of slips in and out. Now, there is much more storytelling that goes on, and you get more of the backstory of Corey than you do of Michael Myers in other films. There's obviously dialogue and things like that. And he does have a lot of on-screen time, but I don't consider him a main character of the film. I consider him to be a supporting character. And so that's my argument. But I'm going to just tell you real quick. I absolutely love Rowan Campbell's how he plays this character out. I love the character of Corey. I know some people absolutely hate that Corey was a thing, that Corey was, that Corey's character destroyed Michael and the franchise and this, that. I don't care about any of that. When I look at the standalone film of Halloween Ends, I enjoy Corey. I enjoy that character. I enjoy everything about him. And I think for me, Corey is one of the brightest spots of the entire trilogy. But I don't consider him to be a main character. I consider him to be a supporting character.
I was all over the board while you were saying that. Initially, I was like, I don't know, dude. As I was making my list, I kind of also wondered, is Corey considered a supporting character?
Right.
If I think we would have had very similar, or we would have had the exact same top 3 picks.
Okay.
But here's what I'll say in your defense to anybody who's like, Corey's clearly a main character. He's an antagonist of the film, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'd like to take you all back to a little film by a little director in 2008. Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight. Would we like to talk about who won Best Supporting Actor in 2008? It was Heath Ledger for the Joker. Are you going to consider the Joker a main character? Very, very similar as far as the amount of screen time, how important and integral they are to the plot. I think you got yourself a really good argument there, Blaine. And had I gone down that train of thought again, we would have had the exact same top 3.
That's crazy.
We've talked about Corey Cunningham, man. He definitely is, to me. Everybody's polarized on it, and we'll get the comments, we always do, of people like, you guys are insane. Corey Cunningham ruined Halloween. He's a polarizing character. I'll give you that. You either love him or you really, really, really hate him, and you have to tell everybody about it. I won't go that far though. But yeah, Corey Cunningham, absolutely, dude. If he's not a main character, then he's the best character we've seen, other than, unless Dr. Loomis is considered in that category. But I do see Dr. Loomis more as a main character. So yeah, dude, no, absolutely have to agree with the Corey Cunningham pick. I think it's totally on the nose, on par, for being the best.
And it's funny that you talked about the character of the Joker in The Dark Knight. I'm not a big superhero movie watcher, so I can't give you, outside of maybe that example. but that is sort of how I look at Corey's character, much like a villain in a superhero film, where like, and here's just another one that comes to the top of my head. Like, is William Dafoe a main character in Spider-Man? He's on camera a whole hell of a lot. He's throughout the whole film. Now, I haven't seen that movie in years, and I can't remember, but I don't think he survives. But is he a bad, is he a main character? I don't look at him as a main character. So I look at Corey, as you mentioned with the Joker, very similarly, that it is a really impactful supporting character, but not a main character. And I would agree that, like, and then we talked about this, Dr. Loomis in my mind is, him and Laurie are truly like those main characters telling that story in 1978, where you have these other supporting cast of characters that are in it. But yeah, I just look at Corey, like I said, because he slips in and out of the story so much. I think, and not only that, but he becomes Michael for a portion of the film. So it's almost like you're not really even getting Corey. You're getting this Michael Myers 2.0 kind of thing. So yeah, man, Corey Cunningham is my number one pick, controversial or not. I love that character, love the actor. The only thing they did wrong was they should have introduced him earlier, and I think it would have pleased a lot of fans, and maybe taken away some of the hatred, not all of it, but maybe some of it that Corey has received because he was just sort of plopped onto our laps without any real background or history.
Yeah, gotta agree with you. And yeah, the superhero, supervillain example is exactly right. I don't think you consider Willem Dafoe a main character in Spider-Man. He is supporting Tobey Maguire. He makes Tobey Maguire a better actor through the way that he is able to bounce off of him. I think the same is to be said about like Allison or Laurie when it comes to our boy Corey Cunningham.
Right.
So yeah, gotta agree with you, man. What do you guys think of our lists? Is it insane? Are we totally missing somebody? This is one of those where anybody's opinion could be totally different.
For sure. Yeah, I was thinking about that. I'm like, I know there's somebody's gonna list out their top 5 supporting characters in the comments below. And I'm like, damn, yes, that person. I didn't even think of that person. But when I was making my list, I literally started with 78 and went all the way to ends in my head, including like part 3. I went through it and was like, okay, how about this person? How about that person? Like Connell Cochran was one that I really, truly considered putting on my list because I really liked that character. And, just that was a great character in Halloween 3. But like there's most definitely going to be somebody that I'm not thinking of that ultimately probably needs to land on this list. And if we had in fact done like, well, you mentioned your top 10, but if I had done a top 10, some of those people like Connell Cochran or, I would have had Vicky for sure. Vicky would have been on my list. So yeah, man, there are so many great supporting characters and we're just really scratching the surface with it. But, yeah, another fun episode. It's the holiday season. Christmas is just a few days away. Hard to believe we're going to be rolling into the new year with, a whole bunch of new episodes. We've got some really fun things that we have planned. There's Santa Austin. He's back again. He's back for the end of the show. We've got some really, really fun things that are still planned out and some guests that we have coming up that are going to be a lot of fun. But once again, guys, thank you so much for giving us your support, supporting us with those 1,000 subscribers. And if you're listening to this right now and you've not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for notifications, and give us a follow on Instagram, halloween.lives.podcast, and tell us how you like the show. Give us some ideas. I just got a message today from Byron Weaver, who is a huge fan of the show. I chat with him a lot online, and he even gave me a little idea on a future episode or potential future episode. So Byron, thank you for that. And that's it, man. Why don't Santa Austin, why don't you do us the honors and you roll us out of this episode?
Yes, absolutely. To those good boys and girls that have been watching Halloween Lives, for a whole year from now. This is Santa. So happy that you're here. So happy you're still with us. We got another fun episode coming at you next week. Something to tie the year up in a nice bow. You like how I did that? This is Santa. This is Austin. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you next week for our last episode of 2023. And then there's more Halloween Lives coming at y'all in 2024. You guys have a great rest of your night. We will see you in a week.